just your reaction, first of all, to the return date for the Premier League, please. Obviously, you've, as a club, expressed some concerns before, but have they been allayed? Are you happy with going forward on June the 17th?
We are. We felt that the June 20th date was a more comfortable date from a playing perspective, in terms of giving the players a decent amount of time to return to contact training. So yes, we were very much in favour of that date. I mean, obviously, you've got to put a stake in the ground somewhere and aim for a particular point in time, and we feel that's a reasonable point in time to aim for. Our players are keen to go, our coaches are happy, our medical staff are happy, so we're very much looking forward to it.
And in terms of playing your home games at home, do you understand that will be the case?
Yes, we do. Obviously, there's the majority of home games, we expect to be at home for everybody. And I understand there are some small number of games where the police do need to look more carefully, at the operations for those games. But we don't know which games they are. We haven't been given that information. So as far as we're aware at this stage, it doesn't affect our club. But obviously, we're delighted that the police and the government and the Premier League have found a way for the majority of games to be played at everyone's home stadiums.
In terms of positive tests, are you happy now? Are you in a better position? You haven't returned any more positive tests, just the 3 in total. Is that right? Yeah, 3 in total since the crisis began 10 weeks ago. So, and we haven't had any since the Premier League testing regime started. So we're happy with the way the protocol is working. I think the players feel each day that goes by that they're more comfortable with what's happening. And obviously, we're now in the contact phase. So that's we're in the early stages of that. So we still need to see how that goes. And then finally, we move to the playing stage, which of course changes everything again. But at the moment, the most important thing is the players seem happy, and that makes us happy. And there's a testing centre at the moment, I understand, at the Amex. How will that work? Will that remain? Yeah, it will remain in place, but it won't operate on any match days that we hold there. So the operations of the testing centre will continue. They'll be suspended for the period of the match. And then as soon as the match is finished, the testing centre will open again for as long as it's needed. And we've committed that to the NHS and the government, that for as long as our facilities are needed, we'll stand behind them. And in terms of player welfare, a lot of games over a short space of time. Are you happy that players are going to get a chance to be properly fit and there isn't a player welfare issue? Well, again, I think the most important thing about the last couple of weeks is the amount of consultation there has been with the players and with the PFA. I think the amount of time our medical staff have had to look at the players in that initial phase when they came back to the training ground in small groups with non-contact. I think, as I said last week, for a lot of the players, it's the longest period of time they've ever had off. It's longer than normal close season. So it is going to be sort of something that we're going to have to look and see on. We're not going to have any definitive position on it until we get through this next stage of training and then the games start again. And at the moment, the players are feeling fit and they're getting fitter each day as the contact training increases. And obviously, we hope that we can get through the final 9 games without any major issues. And John, just one from me to you. What's the situation with the academy players? Are many back in training at the moment? And again, are you happy with the return to play protocols and the date that's been set?
Yeah, we've got an handful of the 23 players as part of the first team training return to play. The rest of them, there's a couple on standby, and they're doing their stuff at home still. And then I've got another group who's now having a 2-week rest. And until we know then, obviously, our dates of return, in terms of when our league will start, in terms of the 18s and 23s, then their pre-season effectively will start then. So we've got a mixture going on, really. Some that are in the squad training, some are on standby, some, the younger ones, are having a 2-week break at the moment, so we know, obviously, when we're coming back.
And overall, they're happy too. The situation, the player welfare issues I've talked about and the testing, there's no issues there with the...
No issue at all at the moment. Obviously, the medical team and everyone around the first team staff, government, Premier League, everyone around it, at the moment, it seems that it's one of the safest environments to be in, because they're being tested regularly, so there's no problems at the moment.
Paul, first of all, it's been a challenging time for so many clubs. How pleasing is it to finally feel like we're sort of starting to move forward?
It's a great feeling, actually. I must admit, I did wake up this morning feeling a lot better about life than we have for the last few weeks. Obviously, we still need to keep in mind that nearly 40,000 people have lost their lives in this period. So, clearly our sort of pleasure in looking forward to playing again is tinged with sadness for all those people. But at the same time, I think the government has been very keen for us to try and move our sport forward as quickly as we can, as safely as we can, because there is a good chance that if we can show, as we will be, all of the remaining live games live, then it gives a chance for people to have their spirits lifted a little bit. It's not going to be quite the same with no fans in the stadium. We know that. But we've got a competition to finish, and we've got some great games to play. I think we feel very positive about it.
Very tight down at the bottom. I probably don't need to tell you that. How are you feeling about Brighton's chances?
It's too tight. I wish it wasn't as tight as it was, or at least if it is tight and we weren't in it. But look, we've been in the Premier League now. This is our third season. We've been lucky enough in that period not to find ourselves in the bottom three at any point. It's our intention clearly to stay out of the bottom three, and we've got some very tough games, which is why we were very keen to see if we can play our remaining home games, at least in our own stadium, even without fans. It's still, we feel, better for us to do that. Time will tell whether that's true or not. But no, we're looking forward to it. The players are looking forward to it. The coaching staff, I think the whole club this morning felt lifted by, the fact that we've got a date, and we're looking forward to Arsenal coming. Of course, that was the game that eventually led to the whole Premier League fixtures that weekend being cancelled when Mikel Arteta was taken ill. We're looking forward to getting going, Mandy.
We've seen the Bundesliga resume in recent weeks. Do you think that's helped players maybe feel that little bit of confidence about a safe return?
Yeah, I think when we sat here 2 or 3 weeks ago, we said that we'd be looking to the Bundesliga to see how it all worked, as not necessarily a direct guide as to how it would be for us, but certainly it would give us indications of what we could expect, how it would look. And obviously, if it all went well, which it has, then it would, I think, increase the confidence here. And I think it has. I think people have seen that those matches have passed off not only safely on the field, but also safely off the field operationally. There haven't been large gatherings of fans. There haven't been some of the issues that I think people perceive we might have here, and we might still have here. But I think it's given people confidence all round, and that has definitely helped.
Okay, Paul, thanks. John, in terms of you, we know it's been a real challenge for players trying to stay as fit as they can at home. How much of a challenge has it been for the coaching staff to help them do that?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, in the 10 weeks, staff have been brilliant, coming up with really innovative ideas to keep things fresh. I think if I went through some of the stuff that they've done, like the 9 to 16s, the younger age groups meet once a week, so they get regular technical and tactical challenges to do. But like they do other things as well, like for an example, like Brighton's Got Talent as an example. So some of them coming on, like under 12s DJing, skateboarding, showing us what they were doing in terms of being able to play guitars, drums. Do you know what I mean? So you see a different side to it. So that's been good. They've been like recreating World Cup moments with their parents. So some of the parents obviously getting dressed up for it and everything, and involving them and their siblings. So that's been good and interesting. And then the older ones, the 18s, 23s, the full-timer players have been training up until Friday, 4 days a week. So they've been doing tactical. They all come in at the same time. They do their ball work. Some of them get tactical work, one-on-one and analyst work, where they're looking at their own stuff, reflecting on the season. They might look at some of the first-team players, Champions League players. Obviously, then they're doing light art stuff as well, quizzes, etc. But they're doing a lot of metabolic work as well. So they're doing it up until probably last Friday. They've been doing quite a full program. Like the first and second year scholars have still been doing a lot of education. The education department have been doing probably over 100 lessons up until Friday with all the kids for various ages. So we're lucky because we're not been furloughed, so we've been able to, like, obviously. Been be able to give the players and their parents something extra during obviously a difficult times, you know. So we've tried to do as much as possible over the last 10 weeks.
Thank God for Zoom. That's what we say. Thank God for Zoom.
Hear, hear. In terms of the first team, as I said to Paul, I know that players have been trying to sort of stay fit at home, but how much of a challenge will it be in such a short period of time to get that match fitness back? Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, man, I can hear you. Do you want me to take that or John?
To John, please. Sorry, either of you, actually, whoever fancies it.
For the younger players, obviously you can only do so much, obviously. But once then the contact training comes into it, I think they're at a decent base already in terms of fitness wise. And obviously with the increase now as weeks go on, I think they'll pick it up quickly. It is a shorter period of time, and I think as coaching staff, we have to obviously put our trust in the medics and the S&C staff, sports science staff, to make sure that they get them as fit as possible for the start of the season. I don't think that they would put players at risk in that case. So having this time now leading into it, they've not been not doing nothing, but there is a certain base level that they would be at.
Paul, did you want to add?
Yeah, I think the other thing, Mandy, is that the one benefit of having a 2-month break is, of course, some of the players that were injured or in need of a break at that point when we suspended the season have now had that opportunity to get themselves fit again. So, whereas you might have had a squad that was maybe 75 or 80% ready to play, you've now got the extra capacity that comes from having the players that were injured back in the fold. So, as I said earlier to James, it's hard to know exactly what impact this extended period of time off is going to have versus the shortened period of getting ready for games, and then the games themselves, which can be very condensed. But at least we've got a full squad to choose from. At least we've got that flexibility. And as John said, these guys are elite athletes. Their base level of fitness is pretty good. So, what we're doing is we're topping up on that, and they've had the benefit of a little bit of a break as well. So, the big issue is just the contact, that physicality that, of course, you can't possibly get from being on an exercise bike in your living room, or even sort of running around the field or in small groups without the contact. Now that they're coming into contact and they're building up that match readiness, we'll see in a few weeks where they are. But of course, we're all in the same position. All the clubs are, broadly speaking, in a very similar position in terms of the fitness of their squads.
Hi, Paul. If I can start with you firstly, it's obviously great news that we've got Premier League football back ideally on the 17th of June if all goes according to plan. Are you looking at setting up any sort of pre-season friendlies for the squad ahead of that?
Well, we're certainly going to look to see what we can do to sort of build up that level of match fitness. And obviously we need to work within the government and Premier League guidelines on what's possible. But certainly that's one of the considerations for sure.
And we've seen today that the police have made it quite clear that there are some games which they'd like to have at neutral venues. Are you concerned at all about the competition integrity and the sporting integrity if that is a case whereby some clubs are getting less home games than others?
Well, as you know, our position from the start has always been that we would prefer all matches to be played in the grounds in which they were originally designated. But I think, we've got to give credit to the Premier League and to the police and to the government for listening to our arguments about not having all of the games at neutral grounds and doing what they can to support the integrity of the competition and the sporting fairness of the competition by having the majority of the remaining 92 games played where they should be played. And I think, we all took a pragmatic view at yesterday's meeting as far as we could, because we don't know specifically which games might be affected, that we may have to compromise. And if that means that the vast majority of games can go ahead at the places that they're intended to go ahead at, that's fantastic. And it's a very, very significantly better picture than when you and I were talking on this subject a month ago.
And do you think this hybrid system of some matches being at neutral stadiums and the majority being at the original venues, do you think that's a compromise that we need to make, or do you think that everybody should now be playing at neutral venues? No,
I still feel that everybody should, where it's at all possible, play on their own grounds, because that's what the competition was set up like. But we also have to be sort of realistic and pragmatic, and we also have to recognise how far we've come in the last month from having all games at neutral venues to now maybe looking at a very, very small number, if that has to happen. And, those talks are going to go on. We're not privy to them, but those talks will go on where hopefully, the clubs that were due to host those fixtures that the authorities are concerned about may be able to find a way to reassure the authorities that they can take extra steps. If they can't, then I still think it's great that we're only talking about a very, very small number of games.
And have there been any conversations about what would happen if a particular squad did pick up a number of positive tests over the next few weeks as players are coming back into closer contact?
Yeah, we've had some general discussions on that. And again, I think it's one of those situations where we're all going to be expected to use the full extent of our squad. As John said earlier, there are some under-23 players that are part of that and some under-23 players that are on standby to be part of that. So I think, again, we've got a very condensed period of time to bring the league to a sporting conclusion on the field. And I think the one thing that came out of yesterday's meeting by far was that we all would rather finish the season on the field and not have to worry about what might happen if we can't finish it on the field. So, clearly making the full use of our squads, getting through the fixture list, playing out the games, getting a sporting outcome is what we're totally focused on.
Thanks, Paul.
Cheers, James.
John, if I can follow up on that with you, how much pressure, or I guess how much opportunity does this give the academy? We've seen a number of players from the Brighton academy make their first team debuts this year, and we could expect more to get those opportunities when the season restarts.
Yeah, obviously you wouldn't want any injuries for any players once we get started, but some of the younger players will be ready to take an opportunity whenever it arises, and if any opportunities do arise, then that's a positive. And I'm sure they'll be chomping at the bit, ready to take it if and when they do arise. So in the meanwhile, they've got to be ready to take it whenever it comes along.
And just on a similar topic, really, you look at the transfer market coming up, and we don't expect the big money to be spent that there has been in the past. So how much pressure is there on academies now, and how important are academies potentially going to be in the next year or so whilst clubs are unable to spend the big money they have done in the past?
Yeah, I think it'd be really important. But I think if you ask all the youth developers around the country, that'd be brilliant, because you want the players to get opportunities, whether it's at our club or other clubs on the loan under possibly a new loan system, etc. Then you'd welcome any opportunities for players to progress. So anything that enhances that, then I think everyone will be in favour of it. And it will be important, and it'll be a big thing and a bit of pressure on us, which to keep providing players that are at first team level, which that's what you want. You'd have that all day. So yeah, it's a good pressure to have. One that's we've done all right on last year, and we've got to keep building on that next year and year after, and make sure the younger age is exactly the same, that we can get a good obviously free flowing set number of players coming through at the first team.
Thanks, John. Cheers for your time, guys. Much appreciated.
Just to follow up to Paul on the testing. So am I right in thinking, say there were a spike of tests in one squad, is the resolve of the Premier League team to carry on and finish the season whatever?
Well, we haven't got down to the final details of all the different protocols, but the principle is that we would do our best to keep going. Obviously, if it was an overwhelming number of people and the club couldn't play, then that's a different scenario. But at the moment, the intention is to try and play through as best we can. Obviously, the current testing numbers are very low in terms of positives, which is really encouraging. And hopefully we can obviously maintain those low levels. But again, I think at this stage we've still got more discussions to come. But the principle is that we would try and do our best to keep going.